Agenda. Anyone have any changes, corrections, additions to the current agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. I got a motion by Maggie Bass, second by Dave Brusick to approve the agenda. If there's no other comments or questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes 4-0. First on the agenda, we have a public hearing. Mike, do you want to just kind of give us a quick synopsis?
Sure, I will. I can see I don't need to really speak into the microphone since we're not on TV tonight. We have with us tonight Rich and Cheryl Novak, who are the owners of Checkers Sports Bar LLC, and they've applied for a liquor license for an on-sale intoxicating liquor license, a Sunday liquor license, an off-sale intoxicating liquor license, and a dance permit to operate Checkers Sports Bar LLC at 125 Main Street East, or the former JT's bar as it's known, although it already looks a lot better than what it did. So we're appreciative of that. They're looking at starting their liquor operation business approximately August 1st. With a licensing period to run from then until it expires on March 31st. And in accordance with City Code Section 110.16, issuance of a license, subdivision C, prior to approving an application for the issuance of a license, the council has a provision to provide for an opportunity for the public to comment for or against the issuance of the license. The applicant has paid all of the fees, the insurances, property taxes, utility bills are current on the property, so there are no outstanding issues from that perspective. Police Chief Garais has also conducted the background check on the applicants as we do under state law, and there are no disqualifiers preventing the applicants from being granted a license or the licenses. The only conditions that staff would recommend as part of the council's approval of the liquor license following any public comment, one has to do with the definition of what the licensed premises are. And for those that have been around long enough, it goes back to the history of under the law, with the barber shop enclosed in this building, it has to be segregated and essentially be kept separate and apart from the operations of the bar building. There's been arrangements, and it appears it's okay from what we did when we approved JT's, is that the operator of the barber shop has keyed access since he leases the property from the property owner, that he's able to use that for restroom purposes. He does not have his own separate restrooms. And then the other part is on the Sunday liquor license, is that not be finally issued and the liquor establishment not be allowed to open on Sundays until a copy of the health license is received by the city. That we're hopeful and expecting that to hopefully be here on time, assuming all of the code requirements are complied with by the property owner. But if not, that wouldn't be open on Sunday, because that's tied to if the I believe the mayor was around. Sean, I'm not sure if you and David were, but when we went through that as far as the conditions of what has to be met to have Sunday liquor, and so treating them like all the other liquor establishments, is that if we have that and they meet the conditions and the health requirement, or the health code is complied with, and we received that was sufficient. So with that, our recommendation, subject to any public comment, would be to approve the licenses with the two conditions that we have in our memo.
Okay. Anyone have any questions or comments for Mike before we open the public hearing?
Just that Dave and myself were around when Chuck started too, So.
Yeah, we've been around a long time.
I'm the
Okay,
one
I
having
guess
the
I'll
memory issue
open
going
the-
back 8 years.
Guess I'll open the floor for any public comment. Rich, if you want to say a few words in regard to the place, if
I
not.
guess, the only thing, I spoke briefly with Mike on Friday about the health department. I kind of was being a little proactive and thought, you know what, I'm going to call them in ahead of time and have them come in and just make sure that I'm going in the right direction, that I was, to not have any surprises when we come to the opening date. And I was a little surprised Tuesday when it came in to find out that they're really treating my building right now as almost like a full kitchen for the requirements that they're making me go through. I don't fully understand why, because I'm not doing anything different in there than the previous owners were or any other bar establishment in the community. I decided it wasn't worth the fight to go with them because I just thought that they can just prolong my certificate and probably delay the opening that I have set up there. So I just decided I'm gonna go forward with what they have. They did print me out a 17-page construction document of what I have to follow. And I just think it's not worth the battle with them and going back to them. And probably the biggest thing is I spoke to a couple people about is that the building codes that the city of New Prague has and the codes that the health department have, they're not the same. So I'm left here with one in specific is a ceiling tile over the bar area is the city code requires that I have fire rated tiles over that. The health department says, oh no, you can't have them there. You gotta have plastic or vinyl ones that can be cleaned. I'm caught in a spot where what do I put there? I'm assuming the health department's gonna override the city. So I'm gonna go ahead and put their tiles to put in there because that's what's going to get me my certificate. I think at some point, and I mentioned this to Sean and Mike, I think at some point I would prefer to not probably go put any pressure on them about the code while I'm in this process. I'd like to just go forward with what I'm doing and make sure that I'm gonna meet all the requirements to make sure I get my certificate. And then after it's over, it might not be a bad idea to address that at some point because down the road, if anybody else tries to do anything with the bar or another one opens or somebody remodels, we're all gonna be up against that same thing. And I just, I've been in the construction industry going back to '99. Some of the things that they're requiring in there are things I've never heard of before. And I haven't been involved in a lot on the commercial end, but I can tell you that the things that they're requiring for me are not happening in establishments in New Prague that are full kitchens. And all I'm serving is frozen pizzas and frozen sandwiches, and I think it's a little overboard, but they told me, nope, that's what our requirement is. And I said, okay, and that's where I left it.
Okay.
It's gonna cost me more time and more money to do what they wanna do, but it's not worth the fight for me.
That was the state, not the county, right?
That was the state health department, yep.
And Mike,
Well,
what-
they go through that, as Rich found out, is he's required to apply through Scott County, but Scott County contracts with the state to perform some of their health inspection and administration services, whereas in LeSueur County, they handle it internally. And so in a number of different cases, we see practical different applications depending upon what staff and how severe they follow the codes or don't follow the codes. But it's different that Chad, I think, informed you that you needed to be in touch with them to make contact about compliance with the health codes because they can and are different than what the state building codes are, and they have the final say on what goes on from a health perspective, and we don't get to override that.
does Scott County have health inspectors though, that you're aware of?
It's my understanding that they take applications and information, but I think the inspectors are contracted with the state.
Oh, they are, okay.
I believe, and I don't know if
The
that's
lady
what you
that- the lady
found.
that came down to visit with me, she was from the state of Minnesota.
That's-
She wasn't through Scott County.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to see if maybe there was a backlog, you know, they might only have one, Scott County might only have one or two, and it was just bad luck that you got a state person as opposed to a county person or
No.
something. That's what I was going for, but.
No, I believe, as Rich has discovered, is that in Scott County, and I don't know if it's because of all of the growth and development activity in Scott County as to why they contract out that way versus the level of activity that LeSueur County has, is that they perform that. But in many cases, a lot of the times that the people that start out in LeSueur County cut their teeth down in LeSueur County, and then they get hired and move up into the more challenging counties is what we've seen. But Rich found out, and through our discussion as well, is that in the submittal of his plans, he was told, and it doesn't surprise me from our conversation, is that in the submittal of his information is that they told him is that they had 30 days that they could have sat on his permit review before they even began to start to do anything, versus the choice of do you fight them and do you impede the delay and the potential opening of what his establishment is looking at trying to do. And so they hold a lot of the cards, and you see that in the startup of a lot of semi-food related entities, that it's one of the biggest challenges is the rules that come out of the health department and their practical application. I wish there was a way we could have changed it, but what would have met code from our building code perspective under the state codes is sufficient in one hand until you start to get into the realm of where health department has the abilities to change that up.
And I think that time frame was probably the biggest surprise to me. You know, when she came in and told me, she goes, well, technically you shouldn't be doing any work on the building. She said, you should have applied for this 30 days ago. I said, I just closed on the building 3 weeks ago. I said, I couldn't apply for something that I didn't own 30 days ago to get for it. I said, and I have an opening date, you know, that I'm looking to be open August 1st to the 5th, someplace in there. And she goes, well, I would suggest, she said, shutting the whole thing down until we have our 30-day review. And she goes, and that wouldn't start until the time we get the paperwork. Then we have 30 days to even start looking at it, like Mike said, which could take until the middle of September, you know, before I'd even be able to start working on it. And I said, well, how do I go around that? And that's when she printed me the 17-page document and said, this is what you need to do. And she goes, and I would still suggest that you might even want to hold off, because if you're looking at trying to cut some corners and do some things, you're going to need our approval before you can proceed with them. And I said, well, if I want to proceed, then I guess I'm going to follow your 17-page document. And I'm going to do it the way you want it done. And so I started to question her on some things, and I said, so certain things that I pointed out in there, I said, I can tell you that this, and this is not in any establishment in this community. I can tell you that right now. I said, I can take you down to these places and show you that. And she goes, well, it doesn't matter, we're talking about this address. And I said, yeah, but don't you inspect in all these other places? You come around once a year, and you're supposed to be doing inspections. I said, what do you do with them? And she goes, well, if they're in violation, she goes, we write them a violation. I said, and then what do they do then? She goes, well, they're required to fix it. And I said, if it's not fixed, then what do you do the next year? She goes, you write them a violation. I said, so in other words, then I said, I'm telling you that if I decide I don't want to follow any of your stuff, I just go ahead and do it the way I want, and you're going to continue writing me violations, and there's never any consequences. And she goes, nope. She goes, you're different. And I said, why am I different? And she said, because you don't have a certificate in place yet. And she said, and I hold that card. And she said, and you won't get the certificate until you follow my guidelines, and the city will not give you approval until I give them the certificate. She goes, that's the difference. And I'm like, okay,
Wow.
I guess that's it. So there
The
was,
GATs didn't have to follow it, you know, with their stuff.
yeah, because I asked her, I said, how were they able to stay open for 4 years? If you were in here inspecting, how did that place stay open for 4 years? The shape that building was in, there's no possible way that any inspector was ever in there. There's no possible way. I don't know if any of you saw the inside of that building and all, and it looks totally different inside there now, but when I first took that over, and while I was in the purchase mode going through that thing, I thought there would be no end in taking the garbage out of this building. I mean, I took 4 20-yard dumpsters of garbage out of this building
Just make a note that
to
there's
start
issues
with.
with the health.
And so I look back and think there ain't no possible way that building could have ever been operating. If they were doing their job, inspecting it, that building should have never been in operation. And they serve pizzas, they serve food, they did the same things that I'm looking to do here, but I'm being totally changed compared to what everybody else is doing in town. And I don't want to point out any other businesses, because it's like I don't want to open a can of worms for everybody else, but I just told her, I said, I can take you up and down the street, and I can tell you which ones they are right now, because I said, I've seen them, I know that they don't have these certain things going on. And she was like, well, we're talking about this building. And I said, okay. So,
Well, thank you for those comments. Anyone else?
Welcome to the bar business. I'm glad I'm not in it.
But just an aside, unrelated, is that I did a slight kitchen remodel last year that did not require a city permit because it didn't do anything to change anything structurally, but I had some electrical work done that required an electrical permit to be filed. I just got in, they came by today to inspect it, the state inspectors. And that was, I did it a year ago, last March, and they just showed up today.
Now, Mike, you didn't do it. I mean, we had this conversation before the meeting.
I can assure you that I didn't do any electrical work. I am
I
that,
can't imagine how big the hole would have been.
that same state inspector actually came through the building here because everything had to be done through an electrical contractor that I hired to come in there. So we were trying to figure out, above the drop ceiling that was in there, there was miles of wire running through there. Some of them were open-ended wires hanging above the ceiling that were hot wires that we found out about, taking grids out and got zapped by them. So the state inspector comes out and he basically started looking around, and we said, how are we supposed to figure out from the service what goes to where and what's feeding the building, what's feeding the apartment, what's feeding the barber shop and all that? And he's like, if I was you, he said, I'd just cut the breakers and start all over. He said, strip it all out and start over, because he said, I don't trust anything that's up here. So we had to tear every single wire out of the ceiling and start over. And that's how bad that building got left.
Thankfully, it's going to be coming up to code and it'll be safe.
Okay. Any other public comment? If not, I guess I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Dave Brusick. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, the public hearing is closed. Next on the agenda is the approval of the liquor license. And I guess the only thing would be, Mike, is...
We just recommend approval of the licenses with the 2 conditions.
Yep.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion by Sean Ryan, second by Dave Brusick. If there's no other comments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right. See how much easier we're to work with? Well, good luck.
Something went pieces.
Yeah, good luck to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks. Glenn? Oh, thanks. Oh, I thought you were done already.
Yep, I'm almost done. Won't take long. First thing I got for you is, and Jerry Plumbeck from the Orioles is here also representing the baseball group. But we've met a number of times, and in front of you is a list of things that we feel are important when the state tournament comes to town, which is the August 18th, 19th, 25th, 26th, and the last weekend is Labor Day weekend, September 1, 2, and 3. So I won't go through them all unless somebody's got a question on one or all of them or a couple of them, but it basically is nothing more than just ensuring that we have a little more room, parking is adequate or as good as we can get it, places for emergency vehicles to come and go. Hopefully they're not needed, but we still got to have the access for them. So again, I won't list everyone or talk about everyone unless somebody's got a question specifically on one or a couple of them.
Yeah, Glenn, I have one. Attachment 1 is a drawing
Page 31.
of the parking area. And there it says, food tent, beer and tables and apparel. Are you going to be serving beer in there today?
Yes, that's the plan.
Doesn't it have to be fenced?
It will
It
be.
will be fenced. That yellow line all the way around is the,
Oh, is that the fence?
yes, that is the green fencing. So the entrance, the only entrance and exit will be, as it says, entrance and tickets off of Lexington there. So that's going to be people's way in and out, and that's going to be monitored as far as people coming and going.
And I did notice regarding the golf cart deal, are you going to allow people to come up and drop people off at that ticket area, you know, being that that road is a dead end and be closed? Or are you going to discourage that, or?
Oh, come down Lexington?
Yeah, and then drop people off and then go find a parking spot, you know.
The plan right now would be for the Orioles or for the baseball committee to have 2 golf carts, one a 6-seater, one a 4-seater, to help get people back and forth if you need help. But that plan would be to drop them off at the intersection of 3rd and Lexington. The access going into Lexington would be closed with barricades with somebody available that if emergency vehicle had to get in there, they'd be moving the barricade and then that vehicle can get in.
So it's going to be closed off all the way to the corner there?
That is correct. We'd probably keep it back a little bit just to give these golf carts room to kind of pull in and stay out of the line of traffic. But no, they would not be going right up to the front gate.
There is no parking on 3rd now.
What's that?
There is no parking on 3rd east of Lexington.
Up
The
to
area in
7th.
between the pool and the water treatment plant, there is no parking in between there. So obviously, depending upon the amount of traffic at that time, they may be able to swing around.
I didn't know you were going to close it
Oh,
off.
Lexington,
at the corner.
right at-
I was thinking you'd just close it off, you know, so there would be a little...
No.
It's going to be right at the
area
corner.
where-
Like I said, we'll probably keep the barricades back a little bit just to give these golf carts room to kind of get in out of the line of traffic to drop their fares off.
The other reason is that there could be a number of pedestrians congregating there out in the street area before they go in with tickets and that, and so we didn't want them standing out in a street that wasn't shut off.
Okay, any other questions for... No? Okay, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the list of items that the baseball committee would like approved.
I'll second.
Okay, Okay, got a second by Maggie Bass. Any other comments?
With conditions, correct?
With,
There is the condition that they have to get the insurance
oh, yeah, yes.
settled and taken care of, that the city has additional insured.
Yep.
They're working on it, so I'm pretty confident that'll happen.
With that condition, Mike, and
Well, it's the approve the requests with conditions.
yes? Okay, there's no other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay. Well, then I guess you're taking the next one.
I am. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
We got trail seal coating happening again this year. The Parks Department had $17,000 budgeted towards the trail seal coating. On the back of it is the map showing you which roads we would be doing, or which trails we would be doing, and in what areas. This year we got a quote from the company, Bargain Incorporated, that sells the product called Replay. We've been using Replay since 2012. We've monitored it for 2 years for sure, if not 3 years, by core drilling down into these walking paths. And we're very pleased on how it's working. It's working just as they claimed it would. If you remember from years past, I'll always comment that the difference between this Replay and some of the other products, the one of them that we've gotten a quote on in past from Gopher State called Road Guard, that gives the trails that rich black finish, but through the years, we've always noticed that it will peel off, it will flake off, it will just not adhere in some areas, being whatever that reason might be. And then we get people complaining about that, and the rollerbladers don't like that because they can feel that, and things like that. So again, we got a quote from Bargain. We called Gopher State. Gopher State said they would rather not waste their time because we know that you're going for the one product. We can't supply you that product. We did it in years past, and we thank them for helping us out. We just wanted to make sure that Replay wasn't raising their price outrageously compared to a different product out there, whether it's, you know, I've always had in my mind, if Replay is going to go sky high, well, we might go back to that other one just because of the cost of it, but hasn't happened. And he guaranteed, or he assured me that the cost would be about the same as last year, as Replay is. But he said, at this point didn't I even giving you a quote, because he said, I know you won't take it from me, it's kind of a waste of my time. So I kind of respect him for that. I understand time's money, so I didn't push him. We didn't go looking any place else for a quote. Again, we feel Replay is working great for us, doing the job we want it to do. It's keeping our walking paths intact, so staff would recommend the approval of the bid for $15,830 through Bargain Incorporated to use Replay on the 2018 trail seal coating.
Any questions? Okay, I guess I'll look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Sean Ryan, seconded by Dave Brusick. If there's no other comments or questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay. Next,
Thank you.
thank you, Glenn. Next on the agenda, as we're all aware, that Amy Jurek resigned her council seat as of June 30th, 2018, due to a promotion to finance director at the city of Belle Plaine, which is going to require her to go to council meetings on the same nights that our council meetings are at. So she felt she wouldn't be able to make the meetings, so she resigned under heavy heart. So now we have to decide what we're going to do. Now, I know, David, you brought up the point that, and I said the same thing regarding that, do we really have to replace it? But based on our recommendation from Scott Riggs, our city attorney, that he felt that in the city charter, it's our duty to replace, even though it's 4 or 5 months to serve that. So I don't know what everyone's opinion is per se. My gut feel is by the next meeting we would come with some people that we think might be interested in fulfilling that role and do an appointment there after we, if you're gonna, someone that might want to do it, you maybe ask them if they'd be willing, and then just make an appointment to fill out. And that way we could at least have that person maybe starting beginning of August, and rather than, I think if we would go through the interview process, it would be, you know, maybe beginning of September by the time we got it, and for just the short term. Did I do okay, Mike?
You have wide latitude in how you choose. As you described the two processes, the council in the past has done it both ways. That with the shortness of one, they've gone the appointment route, and in the other case, the last couple times, we've done it through the application process. So it's really whatever you're comfortable with and where you choose to decide you want to go. And so I don't really have anything additional or extra to share with you other than you having a discussion to determine how or where you want to go. On the last page, just as you take a look at it, Scott provided us with the updated as far as what, in appointing somebody, whether it be candidates that would attempt to file for office this coming filing period for the council election in November, is just that you have to be an eligible voter in Minnesota, that you've not filed for another office at the upcoming primary general election, have to be 21 years of age or more upon assuming office, must have maintained residence in the city for at least 30 days before the general election, or in being appointed, and must not be an employee of the city. So as long as you take those things into account, you're correct that Amy's position was up for re-election in November. And so the timing comes as of where we sit, about 6 months or less right now. And so the alternatives are available to you as we have them described in here and as you've summarized.
So when it says here must not have filed for another office, so if someone is thinking about running for the council or the mayor's seat, that they would not be eligible, is that the way I interpret that?
Generally, when we review these, it's generally at the time that we post the opening for council seats, that in letting people know that is that they can't have filed for another office and then file for becoming a council member. You can't have filed for two elective offices, so to speak. And so if they haven't filed or they're not intending to file, then it really isn't applicable in this instance. It would only be is if they were intending to fill out the paperwork and file for election and to run for election in November, that they couldn't have filed for two separate offices.
So that would only be prior to July 31st. So if we appointed somebody prior to July 31st.
Yeah, I'm thinking
that. And on July 31st, they decided to file for election in November.
well, the reason for making you aware of these is if you talk with anybody is to make sure that they're giving thought to these items.
I had a situation before I was, and I think Sean and Chuck know about it, but before I filed for this seat 8 years ago, 7.5, I was asked to fill a void that was on the council at the time. And they asked me, are you planning on filing for a seat in the next election? I said, yes, I've been thinking about it. And they said, in that case, we're going to retract our request, because they felt that at the time, if I was on the council, I would have a heads up over somebody else. So I would suggest if you ask somebody, and if I ask, I'm going to ask them, if I find somebody, I'm going to ask them, are you going to file? And if they aren't, then I'll try to find somebody else.
Makes sense.
But there is no official requirement that governs any part of that.
Yeah.
That's really council discretion on what you want to consider or how you want to contemplate it doing that.
Or we could move the meetings to Tuesdays, and she could stay on.
Well, that's an idea.
Well, we could, but, so, I like Amy, I was surprised that, I mean, I'm happy for her that she got this promotion, but I'm sorry to see her go,
Same here.
so.
I think she knew that as she was choosing to do that that was likely, because they require that governing body over there requires all of their department heads to be at all of their meetings, whether they have any topics on or not.
Program.
Well,
Nah, I
if-
wouldn't do that to you guys. No. The administrator, yes.
Well, what does everyone do? Do we want to,
Just put an ad in the paper and see who comes forward, or do you?
no, I think I personally just think we should just,
throw
you know, if
some
you know
names
some
out?
people that might be interested and that'd be willing to help out for a short term,
Yeah.
then we can come up with a list and make an appointment from there.
Sure.
Okay?
I agree with that.
But the first thing, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the resolution, which is basically accepting Amy's resignation, or what's the resolution for?
Well, if you read the title, what it is it's just declaring a vacancy to
Okay.
exist and providing for the temporary appointment thereof is all that does. And when you come up with a name, then at a later date, you would adopt a resolution that sets forth that you received a resignation, you adopted this resolution, and that you would formally appoint so-and-so to fill the vacant council seat for the balance of the term, which would basically be through the end of December. So,
You think as all the ones that have resigned that I know all this already? It must be me. I'm just dropping like flies.
Yeah, it is. I meant to talk to you about that.
Well, I'm still gonna make the motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Second by Dave Brusick. If there's no other comments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, passes 4-0.
maybe one only other item to clarify in that, and you probably read that in the materials, but if for any reason that in the discussion that you have trying to select that individual, if the action ends up in a 2-2 tie, then Mayor Nicolai gets to appoint. So, and that's in the city charter as well.
Yeah, I don't think that we'll have an issue there. I think hopefully we can just find someone that's willing to give us 4 or 5 months, especially during the,
Or if it affected me.
no, especially if it's with budgets coming in, I guess. They're gonna come in at the unique time there, so. Consent agenda. Anyone have any questions, items?
Yeah, I have a question for Glenn. On the meeting minutes, Glenn, the third page, 1028, very last paragraph.
There's a correction
Is there?
on the time or the date in there.
It was, city warned him by letter dated May 10th, 2014.
2004.
2004, okay.
Yeah, Glenn caught that already.
All right.
It was a planned error, good catch.
I passed.
Just check that.
I passed, he said.
I told him, we'd find the other one that we put out there, he's still looking. It's like, where's Waldo?
Since I approved the minutes, I failed to catch that.
Oh, yeah. Anyone else have any other questions or issues on the consent agenda? Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the one change already detected.
Second.
we got a motion by Dave Brusick to approve the consent agenda with the change of 2004 from 2014, and second by Maggie Bass. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Good. Now we're miscellaneous. Patrick?
Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
I have nothing.
Your new officer has started, right?
He has started. We'll look at doing a swearing in either next council meeting or the first one in August.
Okay. Good. Glenn?
You asked me the last time how many people that are existing bleacher holds at the baseball field. I guess it's supposed to hold 300 people. That would be pretty much like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think 300 might be pushing it. With the bleacher they're planning on renting, which is gonna go on the first base side right next to the bleachers that are there, the stationary ones. We have that small bleacher that's there, that's coming out. There's a rented one coming in. That's gonna hold 200 people. So combination of the check deck, rental, and our bleacher system, we should be at about 530 people.
Okay, good.
130 in the check deck?
What's that?
130 in the check deck?
No, about 30.
3,200, I'm sorry, you said 630?
300, 200.
And 30?
30.
30.
You could probably get more on that check deck if you.
You could
scan
get more on
those.
that check deck. I went the conservative way because I don't believe you're gonna fit 300 people in our bleacher deal, so. But if you measure it out and, you know, the so-called industry standard, how much space you should take, which I take more, so.
Well, if you're at Lambeau Field, then you probably could get
Then
600.
you could get
people.
600. And that's all I have. I just wanted to run that by you.
Okay. And thank you for taking care of that issue with that gentleman with his drain issue there, so
Not a problem.
appreciate it. Mike?
July 9th, you should have gotten an email from me, just a reminder, 7:30 to 9 a.m. on Monday, July 9th. We've got Representative Vogel and Senator Draheim coming in to do a legislative recap. We've partnered kind of with the school and the chamber to advertise it. I'm hoping the newspaper has something in this week's newspaper that, so we're trying to get the word out on that with the other two entities to invite the general public to come up that morning for a recap. That it didn't appear that we were going to be able to find a date, and then we finally had to settle on an early morning date in order to get either of the two individuals in, and so thought that was still better than not. Obviously, one of the most interesting questions is how are they going to align the state and the federal tax code. Might be kind of an interesting hearing on how all that's going to turn out or what they're going to get done. But every different area, whether it be chamber business or maybe schools or cities, that there's always different nuances, and then whatever the general public has from that perspective. The other part I wanted to do is to see if we can check your calendars, maybe look ahead, and we'll have to find some dates that'll work, but we'd like to do kind of just a special council meeting and a workshop to take a look at going through. We've got a recap on kind of our issues, solutions, and some long-term costs that we might encounter, and so we thought we'd try to put that into a more informal environment versus doing it as part of the regular session. I know summers are busy, and so curious just to see if there's interest, and then we can try to find some dates on when the technology people that we've asked to put together some information to share with you about their availability, but just wanted to check and see if you'd be willing to participate in doing it kind of in a, we have to do it as a special meeting, but kind of in a workshop environment, so to speak. So I don't know that looking ahead, I know Maggie's on vacation this week, and we got the 4th of July, so we don't want to do any of that, and I know people have vacation and different activities planned, so maybe what I ought to do is to maybe just check with you individually and find out a range of what looks like might be workable in the next 4 to 5 weeks possibly, and then see if I can find any consistent opportunities, and then float those dates out to see if we can try to get that scheduled, and then just have the mayor call that when I've got a date that's workable, if that would work for you.
Yeah, because I think we definitely want to go through that presentation before we get into
The
budgets,
budgeting,
because
yes.
obviously it's going to maybe something we have to address in our budget cycle.
We have 5 Mondays in July, so that would be last one, the 30th. Is over.
When I'm up at Park Rapids.
Right.
That's why I wanted to individually just double check and find out, looking at the weeks ahead to see where what are absolute aren't workable dates, and then see what we've got left and see where there's consistency. If that,
Like, some of the meetings have not been that long, like tonight's and July 16th. I don't know what might be on the agenda, but if it lasts only hour and a half, can't we do it at the same time?
Right at the end, after
Yeah.
the meeting, do it.
I don't know how long you plan on having that.
Crystal ball, Mike, you probably have a crystal ball knowing that there'll be a light, no. Yeah, that might be an idea too, then.
Well, in your thought that, we'll take a look at the 16th and the 30th.
Well, yeah, check with them too,
Yeah.
because obviously, if that works for them, if we have it if we could have it at 7 o'clock and be done at 8:30.
What if we did a special meeting at like 5?
Yeah, we-
5 to 6, and then hold our regular council
I
meeting?
don't know that we'll get done in an hour.
Oh, okay.
That, I don't know that, and so I'd hate to bring those resources out to have the
Sure.
conversation and not finish that way, but certainly as Sean was maybe, oh no, you said you're gone on the 30th, Chuck is
I-
gone.
yeah.
Well, the 23rd, Maggie and I have a joint powers until 5:30,
5:30.
then we could do it after that maybe, on the 23rd.
And then I've got to check and see if those dates are workable for
We
the,
just love those meetings.
Okay. Yeah, check some dates and then shoot everyone an email or something and see how it all.
all right, we'll do that.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Barb?
No?
Sean?
Just two things. I was gonna ask Ken, if he's not here, but I'll just throw it out to Mike maybe, or to Glenn too. I've had a lot of complaints about the holes in the railroad track there with the rebar sticking through.
We can answer that.
I'm one of the guys that probably got my alignment knocked out too from hitting that thing a few weeks ago.
And I'll let Glenn answer that, but you're not going to like the answer.
No, I understand it's a
But-
railroad, but I'm just saying, can't
We-
the truck just drive by and throw some asphalt in it and let
We used to do
let
that.
their
We-
attorney call our attorney or something?
We
since
used
we're
to
not on
do
TV,
that,
so.
and we got our hands slapped, and then MnDOT said, well, start doing it. They got a big talking to with the, we're very nervous doing this late at night type deal because we got a railroad crossing that's supposed to change or get fixed this summer,
Okay.
and then the 2020, and we don't want to raise a whole lot of stink because they get pretty, this is my property, do not touch my property type
Right.
deal. So, yeah, we've been calling them. We got a hold of, finally now another gal in, I don't remember if it's her office, Minneapolis or St. Paul. She was gonna send down an engineer to look at it. And we said, there's potholes there, there's nothing an engineer's gotta look at. Bring a bucket of cold mix and pour it in there, and then your problem's gonna be fixed. And, well, that's our process, and we haven't heard back from her. And I've left one voicemail or two now again.
If it wasn't for that, we'd have had it fixed by now.
Okay.
We're just
I know you would. I
We're
knew there was a
concerned
railroad
about
thing
raising
involved.
kind of making a bad situation
Yeah.
because.
Is there any signage that we could put in prior to the railroad, just to alert people that there are holes ahead?
There would be, I don't think I have any, I'd have to go buy it.
You know,
I can talk to MnDOT.
the unfortunate thing is nobody understands it's the railroad. They
I
all
know.
think it's the city.
Oh, we've got,
And the
yeah,
complaints about, and
Yeah.
that kind of leads to my next question, so all right, I got that one answered, but.
Okay?
And I've been on this sidewalk, or the crosswalk thing again, but don't you think we should paint those things before we have all these influx of people walking up and around town? And it's bad enough that
where are you talking?
our crosswalks on Main Street, I'd like to see, I'd like to get the council, some approval if that, they deem that. I know that you have statistics that say sometimes you're not safer if there's a crosswalk, but, I mean, there's people zigzagging all over. I think it might be help if we're gonna have all these people coming in for the state tournament that are gonna be crisscrossing the Main
Well-
Street, walking up and down Main Street to, let alone the fact that it just looks better. I mean, they look like crap, really, I mean, if you look at it. And I know in 2020 it's gonna all be redone, but,
And we paint them once a year, we haven't gotten to them yet,
yeah.
but we
so-
do paint them once a year.
Oh, you do? Okay. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if we were doing it or not, because I know when I brought it up in the past that,
Well, that was the one on 10th that you.
well, I was talking to all of them, really, but I mean, the one across from your building where the kids cross at the park,
Well,
that's
they got
pretty
that new
worn
sign
down.
there now, finally,
Yeah, we added signs there just to
Yeah.
see how that works, but that doesn't mean we wouldn't paint it.
So,
We just haven't gotten.
but I
to
mean,
painting it.
even as an influx of people that aren't familiar with it, at least they can see the crosswalk. I'd hate for one car to stop from New Prague because they know there's a crosswalk there and somebody else blow through it when there's kids. I just think, I don't know about the rest of the council, I just think it's an easy fix that
What's
looks
your,
better, and I'd like to see.
what's your timeframe, Glenn?
I'd have to check with Matt, I honestly don't know the answer to that right now. I haven't asked him that here lately. So I can't give you a time frame. I
They
can find that
generally
out.
do it late summer, so it
Yeah.
looks good for dosing.
Yeah,
That's their time.
typically is what happens,
Yeah.
you're correct, yeah.
Maybe they could, if you talk to Matt, maybe just see if we could have it done before the state baseball tournament.
Yeah, I'll check into it, I'll let you know.
Okay?
And then I had one other thing, is there some grain or something that's kept on the backside of the mill that's rotting or stinking or something? I didn't drive back there to see it, but I don't know if it was a spill or just, there's standing grain that is getting wet and then producing
know.
a
Don't know
smell
the
in
answer.
that neighborhood, in that area.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. I didn't go back there, but I was just kind of curious. Apparently it's happened before at different times. I don't know if anybody's ever complained about it before.
When there's a lot of rain,
mill-
there's some low areas back there that they do get the kind of swampy and they stink.
That could be what's happening because of all the rain we've had.
Oh, okay.
It's just a constant,
Yeah.
kind of a,
Like I said, I never drove back there. I
Margaret
just,
thought the
somebody
bakery
said that
smelled
there
this
was
morning.
standing,
Margaret
that some
thought the
grain
bakery
had
was
spilled
smelling
or
good.
something, or being stored there or something.
Cleaned up.
Maybe she got her
Yeah.
nose.
They made it sound like
Smells
there's a
the
mound
wrong
of grain
stuff.
that was producing a smell.
I'll go by there and I'll call Miller Milling and ask the
Okay.
question.
That was all I had, those three things.
Okay.
Okay, David?
Nope.
Maggie? No. I don't have anything, so everyone have a safe 4th of July. Jim, good luck at the 4th of July. Hope it isn't too big of a headache for you.
No.
If not, I guess I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Sean Ryan. All in favor, say aye.
6:47.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? We're out of here. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the evening.